cut it if we need to cut. We'll keep an eye on time.
You can start if you want.
All right, what's up, everybody? This will be Friday. I'm not even sure what date this video will drop, but we're following up with our last video or interview with Jay Fanaika, where we talked a lot about.
Is that how you pronounce his name, bro?
Fanaika?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
What do you think it
Everybody
was?
pronounces it like
Fanaika? No, Fanaika. Shootfish. He's a Jay Shootfish.
that tongue class is paying off, bro.
Yeah, dude. I speak the tongue in. But anyway, so we're just here. Actually, we're actually here in a small back office at my job. But anyways, yeah, we're following up on a video last week where kind of the main point we took away last week was being purpose driven.
Right.
Which
Right.
man, I love the way that he said that. And it's not a new concept.
No.
But it's a formulated concept where sometimes I'm doing stuff like
You don't even know
no
why.
reason or intention
Right.
at all.
Right.
And so I really liked, that's one of the things I want to try to take away from being purpose driven. We're actually just really quick. So being purpose driven. So for example, we mentioned that we follow some influencers, one of those big Gary V. I also really like audiobooks. We both do audiobooks a lot. So being purpose driven with that as well. I've come into contact with some people who are big readers in self-development and self-betterment literature or books, stuff like that.
Right.
And I read some of the same books. Like my top so far, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
See, I think that book is like I feel like that has triggered like my whole thought process is not like literally recognizing the things that we know in our everyday life that we care about that mean absolutely nothing.
If you haven't read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, that book is phenomenal. But before we get into a little bit more of that, like going back to the being purpose driven. So that book is like straight up. So the Subtle Art is one of them. Extreme Ownership, phenomenal book.
I gotta read that one.
There's the other two books that are also in my top. Ego is the Enemy, and then also The Obstacle is the Way. I love all of those and the big thing about them is because I always preach accountability. I hate victims. You know, I feel like everybody's like, you know, oh, woe is me. No, like no, I own my own. You know, I own my own shit. But anyways, being purpose driven is reading these books is the application, because I feel like I've come into contact with people who also read who have consumed the same knowledge,
Right.
and don't apply a damn thing. A damn thing. So there's no what's the purpose behind doing that? So for us here, for our book club, for me, you know, doing those things for self-improvement, like what am I actually doing to
What are you doing?
yeah, what is the purpose? So I mean like that for the books, for example, you know, as within my current job, right? So I manage small groups of different people, like different personalities, and so that's one of the big reasons why I really want to consume a lot of this leadership development, personal development knowledge, so I can become a better leader and influencer. I don't want to be have to chop everybody's head boss. I want to be an influencer that people want to, you know, follow and you know, take what I give them, right? Outside of that as well, as a father at home, as a spiritual leader, even though my wife would probably be that role. I swear too much, man. I just like a nice F word every now and again.
It's good for you. It's good for the soul.
But you know, the same thing. Like, what are my responsibilities? You know, within the home. What do I own? And you know, what am I in control of? And no excuses outside of that. And then the gym with my fat ass in the gym. Like, I love to train, but man, like I love freaking cookies too. You know, but you know, if I'm going to, you know, have result or achieve results, those are all mine. I own those things. So as far as me, self-development, self-improvement, those are the things I want to improve.
Right.
Like I don't want to and I share the book stuff because if people can connect with that, I want them to connect with it. But my focus is I know my ass got to get better. Like, you're not gonna get me better. You're not gonna get me better. You know what I mean? And so that's what What about you? What do you?
For me, it's, and I try to relate it to the business that I'm running. Although it's small, like just the amount of impact I have on my employees, the guys that I'm managing every day, even with meeting new clients, it's like, it worries me, one, if I can't present myself really at a leadership role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, if I can't take the initiative to be a leader and to help, my own little set of employees succeed, then what makes, like, another company hiring us want to do that? Like, want to hire us to do a service? For me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I feel like we relate in the same way, in that, you manage your groups here at work,
Right.
and I do the same thing with our little group of employees, and then the same thing with going like home. Like, at 24 years old, I got 3 kids, like, and they're boys, and they're at the age where they're starting to watch me and follow me and say things that I do and do things that I do, and so you don't think about those little things, but I get reminded every day when I go home. My 4-year-old son will be like, well, why are you saying that? Or why are you doing this? Or why? And so, out of curiosity, like, this 4-year-old is asking me those questions, and really it's like, I don't know. But now, like, after reading all these books, getting inspired to, one, like, I'm not big and religious at all.
Right.
I am LDS and all that stuff. But just getting up to read the scriptures now and saying prayers with my son lately has, like, now he's curious about those things.
Yeah.
Why are we reading this book? Who is Jesus? Like, just those little things that play a huge role, because not only, like, it's weird because I feel like everything that I've done in the past with that I've gone through experience-wise really translates to what I'm doing business-wise here, and then what I'm doing at home with my family, and I don't know.
No, I think it's important. Like, kids, they make you reflect.
Right.
One, right, with whatever your beliefs are, whatever your actual beliefs are. But when you have kids, it does put things in perspective as to why Jay talked a lot about last week. Like, you're not going to catch him in a club. You're not going to catch him at a dinner unless there's a purpose to be there, and not for selfish reasons. But because, is it moving him forward? Is it moving his family forward? And that that was the focus. And just like with your son asking you, that's somewhat of a gut check, right? Because just going to faith, for example, which is a touchy subject, right? But going to faith. So that question means, well, why the hell? Like, you got to answer, what is the purpose of doing that, and do you see that purpose?
Right.
And if you're trying to be true to that purpose, or are you just trying to facilitate a purpose for your son?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just one example. But in anything at work, how many times, at least, like, I've worked for big, box companies or whatever, where sometimes there are things put in place where you're like, the hell's the point of this policy or rule or whatever? What is it driving? And so for me, that's something that I want to be conscious of. So, if I create reports or policies or whatever within my own groups to follow, like, I want to ask them, hey, do you see the purpose behind this? Does this help you move forward towards that? And so the same things as a father at home, hell, in the gym too, right? Like, if I want to get a stronger squat, I'm not gonna sit there every day and do friggin' barbell curls.
Right.
No, I'm gonna do that for the mirror and the curls. But I mean, that kind of that principle translates across the, a lot of different areas.
Just everything.
Yeah. So I mean, something that we also talked about a little bit right before we started recording. Yeah. Sorry. So that we also touched on last time. is that, or Jay touched on kind of this principle that Gary Vee, someone that Matt and I both really look to, right? And this ties into our kids as well. I want to tie it in. But we were talking about like sometimes our biggest obstacles are within our own circle. So sometimes our biggest naysayers, or not necessarily haters, but maybe doubters, are within our own circle.
Right.
And sometimes we let that stuff affect us. And something that Jay brought up, that Gary Vaynerchuk says a lot, is like, forget that noise. Basically, forget that noise, because we do that stuff enough ourselves. Like, we tell ourselves,
right.
I tell myself all the damn time in my head, no matter how much I try not to, that there's, oh man, like, who are you? You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. So, you know, why listen to that? So, what are your thoughts, like, just on that principle alone of, because we talked about like you are enough last week, but just the concept of, or what examples have you seen where either self-talk has gotten in your way and you've had to talk yourself, you know, over that, or people around you?
Well, so recently, I competing in powerlifting. Like, my wife is completely skeptical about the fitness industry. Now, I know a lot of people are. I am myself. Like, I feel like it creates or paints a false image, so to speak.
It can, yeah.
And so when I told her that, like, I'm gonna compete, and the first thing that came to her, you know, came out of her mouth is like, why are you gonna do that? No, why are you gonna do that? And so it took me a while, one, to grow some balls and courage, like, in my, I don't know, just going off of that, like, experience, really, with what I'm trying to do now with, like, going, so, like, I told you that I'm going to jump on stage and do that. Like, my wife's like, now, she's like, why are you doing that? You know, and so it's creating the image is like, why the hell am I doing that?
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was more like, at the time with the powerlifting phase, is like, oh, I'm getting strong. I'm just going to go, like, really the reason is I want to see how strong I am compared to everybody else. And that's it. I'm getting a lot stronger really fast. I know I can put up against other people that claim to be strongest in Utah. And so understanding that I was doing it for myself was probably the hardest part, I guess. For me, it was like I've always set up like different barriers to challenge, to test, to show progress for me mentally. And so that was one of my challenges, like with the whole weight loss journey, was like, okay, well, now I'm getting strong. Let's see how I'll do in front or with other people that are also strong. With that show in October that I told you that I'm going to do, it's the same way. I know I can make my body look a certain way. I'm going to see how I compare to everybody else that is doing that same thing for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because it makes sense to me because of just because of that. So sometimes you do get your naysayers or doubters, but in my case, which I've told you a lot of times, you know, we've talked about, you know, the impact that the original like Team Flex and me pushing stuff out. Like, man, like I remember being just super motivated and inspired myself to like be vocal and push that message of one, back then I would say, you know, you are worth it, right? Because one of the biggest obstacles that I wanted to get over was, you know, sometimes it's the hardest thing is just walking in the gym because you feel judged and, you know, like, where do I belong? You know, do I even belong here? And so I really wanted to like reach that person and say, you know what, you do belong here. Doesn't matter what shape, size, weight, whatever, you do belong. If you want to be here to be better, then I wanted to reach that person and say, what, you know what, you do belong here. You have the power to be here. And I remember being so motivated and so like fired about that message that it didn't bother me. Well, you know, life happened. I took a break from competing, you know. I don't stay in shape myself. You follow me on like Instagram and stuff like that. Like, you know, I try to be real about it. And because I've got real insecurities about that. Like, especially since I've been on stage multiple times, and so I know how it is to be there. And so anything less than that, like I just feel ugly and stuff, whatever. So it messes with me. Well, that stuff starts to affect my own effort with trying to push that same message. We talked about like our fitness stuff that we put out, and man, how sometimes it's a little discouraging that there's no traction at all. Like put out, and I was just telling Matt, I was like, man, maybe I need to rethink how I'm doing like the videos, because I really am just recording workouts,
Right.
throwing in the sets and reps, and putting it out there, and what I said was, I'm really adding no value at all. And then you stopped me and said, no, that's not the way it is.
Because so like I always everything that like it's weird, because everything that I've done in the past as far as the fitness thing, I've slowly watched my wife watch me from a distance. Before she hated the gym scene, she hated like meal preps. Now she's doing a better job than I am, and for me to see that, it's like, wow. Like, and I'm not gonna take the credit as to changing her mind. Like, she definitely, that made her own decision on that whole aspect.
Right.
But going off of you are good enough to be here. She's come to me multiple times with like questions like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Oh, it feels like these people are watching me. And I told her one thing. I said, look, listen up. You go into the gym for yourself. It shouldn't matter what the hell anybody else is thinking. And one,
if
they're not even looking at you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like most of the time, they're really not.
Right.
They're really not. But even if they are.
But just the thought.
And
right?
And
so for her, one to like, and she's been doing an awesome job. She's been on it for a month, meal prepping, like going to the gym, making sure she puts in her cardio time, just all these little things. I told her, I said, well, keep going. Like, don't stop. Like, this is awesome. One, because you're happy, you're grinding, you're putting in the work, and don't worry about everybody else. Like, don't worry about everybody else.
So back to the subtle art, right? So if you know me, all 10 of our followers, but if you know me, or if I interact with you, like I feel that I'm a very confident person, right? I feel I come across with I'm a generous person, but I feel like I'm confident and I'm not afraid to. I like to operate in black and white. I don't like to operate in gray, right? And so the subtle art made me take some real self-reflection about what I give a fuck about and what I don't. Because if you ask me, I'd say like, nah, naysayers, like none of these guys bother me. Like I'm not bothered. I do what I do, da da da. Well, it made me really take a step back and look, okay, what have I done? Things that I've changed or things that I've done or not done in the past. Like what were the causes? And it's made me realize that, you know what? I do measure myself up against metrics that I shouldn't. And man, and it made me not the same thing where, your wife was really intimidated going to the gym at first and had to work over that. But in other areas, I have those same right. thoughts, but just in other
right.
aspects. Like, man, do I really measure up? Man, and so having to really recognize that I have those thoughts, like Mr. Big Bad Self, like I don't care about anything, da 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 da, like that I really am vulnerable in certain areas.
Right.
And it like and even though I try to not be influenced by others and be true to my decisions, but to actually think back and realize, holy cow, like I did avoid certain things, or I did try to not do certain things because I was afraid of what, of failing or what others would say. And so, back to that message of you do belong here, whether it's in the gym or whether it's in a workplace or whether it's wherever, like, I feel like that connects everybody, right? Because that stuff like, and it wasn't really until, and I told you, and this is really one of the reasons why I wanted to jump in this with you, because I could see, your, raw fire to get it going, because I needed that for myself to really understand, hey, these aren't the metrics that I need to measure myself up against. My purpose should be here. Myself, your wife, she goes for herself. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, says, does, whatever. It's for herself. And so that applies for me directly in just a lot of different reasons. So we talked also about those principles. Those principles are actually really why we both
Right.
came together in this.
Right.
Because we wanted to expand more than that. So, coming out of, for example, Polynesians, like the dynamic that Polynesians have, that we know actual professional athletes, like I can reach out and say, oh yeah, I know that
Right.
person. Like this is a weird dynamic, and the chances of a Polynesian becoming a professional football player are just so much greater than
Right.
a lot of other cultures. That dynamic is different. Well, sometimes the gap in that is sometimes we view that as our only option, right? But you and I came together because you run a business, right? So you've created the success where for a long time, football, the NFL was success, but there are so many different
Right.
visions of success where you run a business. I am a director of a small, within a small company, but there is success there.
There is lots of success there.
So how have some of those principles, of you belong and you are enough, how have those helped you?
Really?
And we're not trying to claim.
No.
We're not trying to claim that
Really,
we're at the top.
it goes back to like I don't know, for like he said, the handful of guys that do follow me on Instagram. I posted that picture of my wife, and said like at 16 we had to go
Dude.
place for adoption. Like on Saturday when we did the interview with Jay,
Yeah.
like my
If
whole
you
mind
haven't seen that post, go check that post.
my whole mindset on like, oh yeah, when you guys are talking about like that first love, your daughters. Just so happened we had a daughter, and that was like experiencing that brought me back to understanding like, dang, I remember that feeling, and I do love my boys, don't get me wrong, but there's something about that first, like holding my daughter when she was born, and I know I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but I knew that there was something there.
Yeah.
And for me, like it hit home was like, I went through this experience of having to man up to make a decision that'll better benefit her life now and in the future. Because at the time I was thinking about other things, college, football, all of these other things. But I was so stubborn that I was like caught up like, no, my family, like we want to keep her in the family. This is how we run it. Not looking at the whole picture at the time, and that's why it took me years, because I was just so stubborn and getting over that. It's okay, it was okay.
So just for those who may not have seen the post, if you're so you guys gave up your daughter for adoption.
Placed her for adoption when we were 16 years old, and it was just through LDS services. We met this, and there were tons of families that were coming. Like they would take my wife out to spoil her, which I thought was why are they doing this? I remember I was living in Oregon at the time. My wife was living here, and I would just try to fly back and forth every weekend as it got closer to the due date. And then she would always say, oh, these people are taking me out here. These people want to take me out here. And it's why is it? And then now I'm getting emails from these people this is why you should pick me for your daughter. And at the time, literally at 16 years old, what were you thinking about? I was thinking about going to college, going and playing football. I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple of months, she was born. And then, the decision actually was, I told my wife, I said, she was my girlfriend. I said, you do whatever you feel like is best. This is where I stand. And I was just so prideful. I didn't want to waver away from what I knew, or I thought I knew at the time, was the best thing for us, which was to keep the baby. And just going through that whole process of I now know, and this is the whole foundation as to why I could give a fuck about anybody else. like why I do the things that I do with the business, why I do the things that I do with fitness, just my life, is just because, like, going through that whole, even like when people found out that I got my girlfriend pregnant, they stopped talking, like literally left me alone, and then like my family's like saying, you got to do this is right. Her family is saying this, you got to place her for adoption. Just like, I really don't give a fuck about other people's opinions because of that. Nobody knew how to go through those situations. Not my family, not my brothers, sisters, cousins, not her family. Like, being 16 years old, you don't understand those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
so that is the foundation of, like, as far as not giving a rat's ass about, like, the other opinions. That's my whole thought process. I go back to the days where everybody was, not talking to me, like, turn their backs. I go back to those days, and I remember what it was like to go to, even in Oregon, like, my girlfriend was over here pregnant. Even in Oregon, people, my friends were like, oh, you got that girl pregnant? Oh, can I hang out with you? And so, like, I go back to those days, those times, every time I got to handle a hard situation. And then I just come into reality, like, why the fuck do I care about what you think? Why the fuck do I care about what this guy thinks? I'm going to make it happen. And that's how I've, like, translated to business, to fitness, to my kids, like, helping them understand, especially my kids, helping them understand, like, the world doesn't care about you. In all honesty, the world could give a shit about whether or not you're homeless or about whether or not you make it successfully.
Right.
You go do it yourself.
Right. Yeah, whether you
and so that small message is the same thing with my wife. Her building up the courage to go to the gym. It's like, who gives a fuck about that girl that goes to the gym that looks all good and everybody's actually staring at her for her butt?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Go in there, be you, put in the work. That's it. I translate that over to business, like, if I gotta meet a new client, if I gotta make a sale, give me a try. Get to know who I am, and you won't regret it. That's it.
I think that principle, like, because it is hard
truth
to listen to, right? To hear. The world doesn't care, and that's what I hate about now is I feel like everybody deserves this, right? And it's right. So that's one thing that like when you come to those specific principles, with like my kids, I want my kids to understand that if they're going to make it, then they've got to make it, right? Like, and there are people along the way that will help. It's open doors, but it's their responsibility to do it.
Right. But making it, like, you create your own picture of success. You create your own vision of what you feel is making it. And that's what I like. It's hard because my kids are younger. Yours are younger, but a little bit older than mine. But just seeing that my 4-year-old is so curious as to what I'm doing and what I'm saying and like just actions, it's like.
But it re-emphasizes the importance of being purpose-driven.
Right.
And for me, it re-emphasizes the importance of teaching you are enough, right? Like, that's my biggest worry with my kids. My kids are half white. And then growing up, girls, I just hear dramatic stories about all girls when they're, in junior high and stuff like that. They have all these little cliques and that's for me my biggest focus with my kids is to teach them they are enough. So if you like follow along, I got them in every single sport just because they like sports, but I want to teach them like my upbringing is a little bit different than what my kids go through now. Like, I learned some of these principles of work your ass, right? Because my dad, I used to yacht there with my pops from as long as I can remember. And when I stepped out of line, like I whipped my ass. So I knew I was accountable
I think that's for all
my
parties,
actions,
bro.
right? So and so for my kids, I'll be honest, my kids don't get disciplined like I did growing up. But I still want them to learn those lessons and those principles. And for me, those are probably the two biggest things that I try to apply every day in my own life, fitness, work, home, whatever. But also I want to be able to teach my kids as well. One, they've got to create it. You don't deserve anything, right? You got to go out there and make it. But you shouldn't be scared to go out there because you do bring enough, right? And your success, and this is my biggest opportunity for myself, just like you said, your success doesn't have to look like
everyone else's.
Yeah, my success doesn't have to look like your success. Baby, because my achievements don't look like your achievements doesn't mean that it's not success. And that's where I think, a lot of that self-talk happens. And on top of that, if we start to let other people's talk happen to us as well, then it just makes it that much tougher.
I get it, dude. I get it, man. Like, all of this is just based off of things that I've gone through. Like, when people, and I don't talk about these things because, like, one, the Polynesian culture says you can't talk about that. I don't talk about, like, that experience of at 16. I don't talk about or going through that whole adoption thing. I don't talk about, like, at 17 I tried to commit suicide. I don't talk about those things, but I always feed it off of it. Why? Because those are the times where everybody else turns their back on me. Everyone. And so, like, going through that whole fitness journey, I was, like, I didn't like that, I let that self-talk get into my mind.
Right.
But I never really thought that I could use those other experiences to feed off of everything that I'm doing now. And I, like I say, I'm not done. Fuck, I'm 24 years old, dude.
Young, bro. Your legs still work normal.
I'm not done. Like, when normal 24-year-olds are thinking about, like, what school I'm going to go to, or when I'm going to get married, and this, like, I'm thinking about, like, building the biggest building.
Yeah. I like that, dude. I like that. Building the biggest building.
And I've got, like, years yet to come. This is just the foundation that I've built in my mind and that I'm putting into play. I don't give a fuck about anybody else. But, like, if I make it, everyone who's been there with me through all of this stuff, all the struggles, all the hard times, making it too.
Yeah, we talked about that. I keep a tight inner circle. I keep a big circle. I keep a tight inner circle. Just because for me, same thing. Loyalty is big for me. Not that I've been burned by anybody, but just that fact. And that's we've talked about that as well. But that's all the time.
No, good.
You touched on something I think that we should come back to, which is maybe some more of these, like,
you can't
talk about, or we don't address, or doesn't apply to the Polynesian community. I think that's.
I think it does. I think it does.
No, it does.
I think it does apply, but I think that, like, our parents, your parents, just don't know how to talk about it.
I think there's no. That's what I'm saying. No, it definitely does apply. I think our community, at certain times in certain topics, try to act like it doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply.
And I think that's where we can go more.
They put up the front. They paint that picture like it doesn't. Like,
because they measure against metrics that they shouldn't. So, anyways, that's it for today. Again, if you're gonna make it, you gotta make it.
Right. Paint your own picture.
Paint your own picture of success. Stop measuring up against. And your achievements don't have to look like everybody else's achievements. Mine don't either. That's my own internal self-talk that I've got to refocus every damn day.
But don't get us wrong. Like, it's good to pick and choose.
Yeah.
From, like, the people that
pieces.
have introduced me to and are yet like to come in contact with. Like, it's good to hear their success stories,
Yep.
because we can all relate in some way, whether it's with struggling or success.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's good to have those to build off of. So, with that said,
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow. Every Friday we try to drop a new video. Yeah, hope you enjoy.